I firmly believe we've attacked this at a small scale, and 15,000 sounds like a big number, but it's relatively insignificant. But I think the three principal barriers that we have to go to a larger scale is one is a government certification, which would be a process of the scientific and health community to convince the government to accept point-of-use water treatment in a formal way. Number two and three are simultaneous. One is the education process, and the education process is basically a marketing so that people are aware of the problem and they wish and search for a technology. And then third is a supply and access channels. If we don't have the technology in country or manufactured available, then it doesn't do much good to talk about problems. So again, government certification, two, create demand through education, and three, to have supply and access.
We have sitting at this table some of the best experts in the country to respond to this question. We have representatives of Rotary, the corporate world, the nonprofit world, and world public health organizations. Maybe as a format here, we could get, maybe starting at the end with Bob, if we could get each of the recipients or each of the panelists to just spend a couple of minutes responding to Bob's challenge. And then maybe if we've got a few minutes, we could open it up to questions from the audience. Bob?
Well, I guess what I would like to add is that something that Scott said about Dow's partnership with international aid, it really is from a philanthropy standpoint. And our challenge and what I expect of international aid is our role is to take it from something that's philanthropic to something that makes good business sense. And if we can actually get the business community involved and have the proper business model, that will allow us to scale up technologies such as the hydrate filter and others out there to really reach the households we need to. Because if we're going to play around with the humanitarian model, we might reach millions of homes, but we're not going to get to the number of homes we need to really make a difference and provide safe water out there. And I know that there's been a lot of analysis on what smallpox, eradicating smallpox and what it saved for the global community in cost. And I know that there's been some analysis done on polio eradication and what that's done for saving the world as far as in economic terms. And I haven't seen the analysis done yet, but I know people are working on it. But I bet if we put the economic value of solving the safe water challenge that's out there, it would be far greater than polio or smallpox together.
From my point of view, I primarily work with Rotary and World Vision, and I think the partnerships that are available and Rotary thinking bigger and larger impact and really following everything that Ron talks about in his wash rag, setting your sights higher and really striving to do greater impact with great sustainability and bringing in the right partners to do the job. I use the analogy, I had my air conditioning unit in the house break, and I'm not going to go learn how to do it myself. I called an expert to get it done, and if you're going to do significant water projects, partner with people that really know how to get them done. If it's water, if it's biosand filters, partner with people that really know how to get it implemented in the countries you're working in, and take advantage of the funding that some of those organizations have, whether it's World Vision or USAID or anyone else. So really think outside of the box. Rotary is really giving us some direction on how to do more sustainable, larger projects and work to understand how that's done and make it happen.
I guess 2 points. One, a direct challenge. I guess it's the science and technology bit of it. It's if that's a challenge, getting government to certify. I mean, we know a little something about testing in terms of, all of our chemicals, et cetera, but maybe that's an opportunity for us, working with governments and giving them the confidence that this is something that moves forward. I understand earlier from talking to you, Jim, that there was some research presented in terms of ranking of the effectiveness of the various types of solutions. Biosand filter was towards the top. That's great. you know, there are all sorts of technologies though, and we'll probably need to, whatever it is, certify any or all of those. The second part is back to the business case, and it's in my title, Sustainability and Business Integration. And I would just make one observation, and that is, and this will be a little controversial, I would say when the business case is so evident that a half-trained Cocker Spaniel can do it, anybody can do it. I think the tough part is leadership when there isn't an immediate, clear business case. And my analogy has always been in the corporate world, you know, you think about advertising and tens of millions of dollars that we pay for advertising. What's the business case for that? That is clearly an indirect, I mean, we're spending it, so we assume that there's a return on investment. When there's clearly an indirect business case there that we're more than willing to fund. You know, why don't we just expand that thinking? And that's actually what we've tried to do, is link our sustainability goals to corporate brand and reputation through the human element. But I would also agree it can't forever be philanthropy. But some of these things you need to give the benefit of the doubt. Place those bets. You know, and that's why I called it slow money. I didn't call it giveaway money. It's slow money.
I was interested in the presentation of Engineers Without Borders, and two numbers struck me. They confirmed one of my concerns, and I'd like to stress them again. If you recall, that program was 1,000 new wells and 1,000 rehabilitation. And I come across that all the time. When we implement some technology or other, we don't have the follow-up, we don't have the sustainability, and then some months later, somebody has to go back and fix the problem. I've heard it said that something like 80% of the hand wells that have been implemented are no longer functional. I don't know whether it's 80%, but I do know, talking with the general manager of the Rotary Foundation, John Osterland, and he agrees that up to 50% of the investments we've made through Rotary in technology have not paid off. So once again, this whole question of the sustainability, and here I'm thinking of the softer aspects, not the technological aspects, the softer aspects, the community taking ownership, choosing what they want, putting in a program to maintain it, agreeing on how they're going to pay for it, because that becomes very, very important indeed. So I see if there is a challenge moving forward, if there's a challenge to scaling up, it is very much concerned with those softer aspects. And this requires human resources. People are needed to train people. It's more than a question of money. How do we train trainers who can then train other people? This I see being the biggest challenge we're facing in DR and in so many other parts of the Rotary world.
Well, speaking as an academic scientist and teacher in regards to these questions, certainly I think there's a clear role for academic institutions, as you've heard from others, including Engineers Without Borders, for us to be the places where the next leaders who know about household water treatment and safe storage and who know about the advances that can be created with new research are going to come from. I think it's the academic institutions and the young people who go through them that hold the key to the future to help take this forward. And it's not just engineers, it's not just health professionals, it's those in the business world as well. And to give you a concrete example, at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, we created a global water partnership between our School of Public Health, which is where I'm located, and where we also have an environmental engineering program, with our Keenan Flagler Business School to look at sustainable solutions to large-scale commercialization and marketing of household water interventions. Now, clearly, as has already been said, we don't know how to do this yet, and yet we hope that we can accomplish this, maybe not as quickly as the Cocker Spaniel could, but soon enough to help provide business plans and models that would help take these things forward, because I think that's part of the role that academic institutions can play. The other is to facilitate, through our credibility as scientists, facilitate acceptance by governments and other decision makers about which technologies, including the implementation and marketing models, appear to be the effective ones. If you want objective, independent assessments, then clearly those in science and in research at academic institutions provide that sort of capability and resource to which you can turn. In addition, when it comes to being on the ground, our students, our postdocs, and us as faculty are willing and able to step up and help do programmatic assessments, just like we've already done post-implementation assessments of biosand filters and ceramic water purifiers. We can do that for whatever the next things are that come along. And we can also help design the large-scale experiments, shall we say, that would test different models for getting safe water technologies out there to the people who most need them. So I think those are some of the things that we in academia can provide, and I think we would kindly request that you look to us for this kind of assistance. I think we have an obligation to do that, and part of it as well is tied in with our teaching mission to train the next generation of scientists and other educators who would carry this on.
That's exciting for me to hear this sort of collaboration, because in terms of the business model, it is not a traditional area that bilateral donors have been contributing towards, and it needs new players to find these solutions. So it's great to see people coming together and sharing perspectives from different disciplines to find those workable solutions. I think the second challenge in terms of that education, creation of demand, certainly once there is a commercial interest in these technologies, the private sector is very good at creating demand. So they certainly can play a role there. I think the other major area, though, is back to more, I guess, USAID's Bilateral Assistance Corps, is the government health departments, that they all have health promotion activities. And to incorporate some of these newer technologies and the appreciation for improved water quality in their health promotion activities should be something that we continue to try to better integrate. But we need to, again, match those health programs up with the experts in the technology and communicate effectively between those different groups. I think finally, though, in terms of acceptance, it typically is your Minister of Health or your department within a Ministry of Health who is responsible for giving seals of approval. And again, I think we do, as the U.S. government and our relationship with many countries, have some leverage there, and working together and trying to influence those decision makers. Certainly the leadership of WHO is important there as well. But I think that ultimately is where the buck stops in terms of getting the stamp of approval.
I'd like to just mention two quick points that build off the comment I made in my talk about my uncertainty that we're going to solve any of these challenges that we've heard today. The first is that from an engineering perspective, the technology is there. Technology is pretty easy, in fact. And I'd even argue that the money is fairly easy. So you have to ask yourself, why haven't we solved the problems then? This probably has something to do with people. If we could get rid of the people in the equation, we might be able to solve the problems.
That's an engineer talking.
The second point is, in some ways, based on as you get into this, you sort of talk to a lot of people that are interested. It's great to see the interest. But after a day like this or at a conference, I've heard from more than a few people that these problems are so big, so overwhelming, that it's easy to leave with just a shard of hope, that you might be able to make an impact. And so I would just encourage you to go back to the slightly smaller scale perspective on this, and that you're not going to solve the world's problems, but you might make the world better for somebody. And that we've talked a lot about programs, and I think particularly for those of you who are Rotarians, to think about the projects again that your individual clubs or districts can be engaged in, because those are critical. There are people suffering right at this moment, and if we wait for the programs to become in place, then there's going to be some suffering between now and then. So why not get on some of those individual projects? And I think that's one way that all of you can leave with some positive feelings that we can make a difference. You can make it one community at a time. In fact, that's one of EWB's mottos. And I think that's the way to go forward. It's really, great to see that these large initiatives are forming, and there's great work to be done, and great work that has been done by these groups. But each one of you can make a difference, and I think that's an important thing to leave with.
How do we go big? That's the question, right?
That's the question.
Wow. Well, Rotary has made an example of how to go big in many cases. In this case, what you say about creating an enterprise or, commercialize within a technology, I kind of disagree with that if we want to go big. The reason is because the problem is with the poor people that do not have access to money. And when you put a price to a product that should be available for everybody, then you're saying only those who have the money can have the technology. So you're reducing your market right there. And if you start promoting the product and creating the demand, obviously the demand will increase the price of the product if you don't have the supply. This is obvious. But the question is, well, how do we go big with the people that need it? How do we solve it? I think we should keep it, what you were just saying, we should keep it with going with the poor, supplying technologies that the poor can have access to. If we don't think that way, the poor will never have access to the new technology. And that's what makes the world so unbalanced. And we're here to try to correct the problem for a lot of the people that have no access to money. And we got to keep that in mind. That's my point of view.
Great. Let's, maybe we can get Bonnie to comment, as one of our speakers. While we're handing him the mic, let me give you one thought to think of in response to this. Is there a situation that we could develop where we could make those 300,000 filters available through our network of NGOs to the humanitarian world, but simultaneously work with and create micro-business, microcredit distribution models so that we can get to a large number of folks well beyond the 300,000 recipients? Question? Don't know the answer. Bonnie?
Okay, I think the issues that we are discussing here is about the barriers to implementation. And I think this is my advantage to be one of the last speakers in giving comments, because I can assimilate all the thoughts that you have discussed already. Well, by the way, I wasn't able to discuss this morning about the possible 4 levels of implementation of household water treatment. I could see that there are 4 levels of implementation, and in every level there are barriers. So for example, level 1 could be the development of the technology. Level 2 is the pilot testing of the technology. Level 3 is the small scale implementation, and the level 4, the last level is the large scale implementation. I think we are talking here now of the small scale and the large scale implementation because the technology is already available. So we are past already with the development and the pilot testing. Now with regards to the small scale, what are the barriers that we could foresee in implementing going to the large scale? So I enumerated here 4 items, which I think some of you already mentioned. One is the information, education, and communication strategy. If there are no information available, how would the people have an informed choice? Number 2 is capability. If there is no capability in place, how can we push forward the technologies that we have developed? The supply chain, that's number 3. If there is no available supply, what are the choices that the people will select? And number 4, the policy support. If there is no policy support at different levels of the government, how can some technologies be accepted? So unless these barriers are overcome at this level, at the small scale level, we cannot go to the large scale level. And once these are overcome, it's very easy to go to the large scale. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. I'd like to thank our distinguished panelists and turn the floor back over to our District Governor, Chris Etienne.
I would also like to thank very much all of our presenters. What great presentations and what wealth of information today. So thank you all. As Rotarians, certainly we know there's challenges, but there's incredible opportunities for us as well with collaboration and with these great partnerships. Susan Bodenner, would you please stand up? Thank you so much for organizing this event. Susan has done an incredible amount of work. Surveys. Also want to thank Jim Bodenner, Jim Van Dyke, and also Charles Jefferson for their help in making this conference possible, and everybody else that made this come together. I also encourage you to visit our website, thirstingtoserve.org. We are going to make video presentations of all of the presentations today available on the website, and you also can learn about how to become a member. So with that, I thank you all for joining us for this great 4th annual Thirsting to Serve Water Conference, and I hope that you come back with us next year, and please travel safely. Thank you.